Okay.
So maybe with that, what if we shift gears and maybe would you mind describing, since we're about to talk to Keith himself, I guess, how you got introduced to Roscoe Guitars and why you play Roscoe?
Okay. Well, that's an interesting story. In on some level, I was touring with the Yellow Jackets. It was 1998, and I was exclusively using Tobias guitars. Now, Tobias guitars got sold to Gibson. Gibson completely destroyed the instrument, in my opinion. Basically they took all of Mike's staff and then they fired them, and then eventually they booted Mike out the door with what's called a retirement package, and then he had to sign a non-compete agreement, so he couldn't do business for like a year and a half, whatever it is on the agreement. So Mike just kind of went away, although, he took that time to start working in his head of coming up with a new design and a new product, which eventually came out as MTD, Mike Tobias Design. So I'm still an endorser of Mike's, but at the same time, in that year and a half that he could not do business, I was touring in 1998 with the Yellow Jackets, and I was in Seattle, Washington, playing a four-nighter up there in a place called Jazz Alley, I guess it's called. Yeah, and I had a problem with a potentiometer, and I needed to get it fixed. And the guys at the club said, "Oh, you got to go to Base Northwest." So I looked them up on the Yellow Pages. I found them, and I took a cab over there with the bass, and I walked into the shop, and there was a repair area, and I went over there, and the guy said, "Can I help you?" And I said, I have to get a potentiometer repaired or swapped out. He said, "No problem. Let me see the bass." It was, I had a Tobias 6-string fretless I was playing at the time. So I was sitting around and I saw this bass sitting on a stand. I said, "Hey, what is this?" He said, "Oh, that's a Keith Roscoe bass. It's owned by this guy who plays bass with Edie Brickell and the Bohemians." I said, "Oh," I said, can I pick it up and try it?" I said, "Yeah, go right ahead." So I picked it up, I plugged it into an amp, played it, and it was great. I thought, wow, this is cool. So the guy said, "Wow, you want a brochure for the company?" I said, "Yeah, why not?" So I got a brochure, a Keith Roscoe Guitars brochure in Seattle. And we were bouncing after we left Seattle. I forget where we went, Portland or whatever. And then at one point I got curious. So we ended up, and I looked on my itinerary. I hadn't even checked out everything that was on the itinerary. And I saw that we were doing a gig in Greensboro, North Carolina. And I said, "Wow, that's where Keith Roscoe is." So I don't know where we were. I think we were in Williamsburg, Virginia, or Virginia Beach or somewhere, and heading towards Greensboro, North Carolina. So I sent Keith, I called him from a payphone, I think, and left him a message on his answering machine. And that was that. And I gave him some information, like, "I'm going to be in Greensboro. I'd love to meet you, and just I like your instrument, and we're playing at this place." I can't even remember the name of the place we were playing. And I said, if you want tickets, I'll invite you down to the gig. So when I got to the hotel in Greensboro, there was a message from Keith, and I responded. I called him. We talked. He wanted tickets. I got him tickets. He came to the gig, and then he said, "I'd like to build you a bass." So I accepted. I did call Mike Tobias, and I told him what was going on. And Mike knew Keith and said, "Go for it." So I got Mike's blessing. I met Keith. Keith was a great guy. Keith built me this bass. right here. This is my, had this since 1998. It's a 6-string fretted. And funny enough, right at that time because I played fretless exclusively for 10 years. And right at that time I was thinking, I was getting frustrated with the fretless intonation thing. I was like beating myself up. And I thought, yeah, I'm going to get a fretted bass and go back to that. And that's what this was. And I've been playing this bass live since 1998.
That's great.
And I came up with a little thing, which is kind of my signature. Keith can talk to you about it, but I asked him to angle the pickups so that the top of the pickup here is angled towards the fretboard. So it makes this little thin 30, 27 or 30 or 28 even string, gauge string, a little warmer. And then the bottom of the pickup is angled towards the bridge. So it makes this giant 128, 130 gauge B string sound more articulate because it's all the way, it's leaning towards this bridge. And that seemed to work. And the only other thing I wanted was separate volume controls. So I have this volume for this pickup and that volume for that pickup. And that gives me a lot more variety in the tone selections. A lot of times I turn this pickup off completely and I'm only using the bridge pickup. But just to warm it up a little bit, I'll add some of the low end pickup. So there you go. And it's an odd thing because, as a lot of you know, I'm left-handed, so I play a left-handed bass with a right-handed neck. Good luck for that.
And a couple questions. So I guess how long have you played a 6-string bass? And I guess what got you into playing 6-string? And is that what you play exclusively?
Pretty much, although, studio work, I use a lot of 5-stringers. And I still have a couple of 4-string basses. I have a 4-string fretless, Yamaha 4-string fretless. I have a Moon bass 4-stringer fretted. And I have another Yamaha, it's like a BB 1200S, which is a 4-stringer, but a friend of mine invented a bridge that converted the 4-stringer into an 8-string bass. So I have that. I hardly use those, but they're around in case I need something like that. But I have a lot of 5-stringers as well. But live, I exclusively play 6-string just to have the capability for, the soloing and having that higher extended notes. And then obviously the low end is always great, having a low B. I've been playing 6-string since 1988. I got my first 6-stringer from Mike Tobias, which was a 6-string fretless. And that's what I used exclusively for 10 years until I got this Roscoe 6-stringer.
And then does your Roscoe has a preamp on it?
Yes, it's all Bartolini preamp, Bartolini pickups.
And how do you configure the EQ on your Bartolini preamp?
I just turn everything up to 100.
to 11?
Yes, yeah. I just turn it all up and then I adjust the amp so that the bass is just putting out full blast energy, which is good for the house sound. And then the amp, I'd make my adjustments on stage.
Okay, interesting. So everything's all on. So how about during a solo versus during an accompaniment piece? Your bass is full on, so there's nothing more you can add.
Pretty much, the only difference is when I'm soloing, I'm exclusively using the bridge pickup. When I'm playing in an ensemble, I add some of the front pickup. And if I want more of a string bass sound, I take down the bridge pickup and turn up the front pickup and get a little more girth.
Okay. Yep.
That's basically what I do. I mean, there's a lot of variations to all that. and it depends on the room. You know, there's a lot of variables. So you just, my ears still work pretty well. So I rely on them to tell me what to do in different rooms, you know, from a little 100-seat club to, 10,000 seat shed, you know.
But as you said, any changes though, based on that, are at your amp or front of the house?
Pretty much, yeah, pretty much the amp. And then if I'm not getting what I need or what the front house guy needs, then I have to adjust the guitar as well. Try to help out, you know.
Yeah, makes sense. And Keith, are you there? You able to
Is
pick
Keith
up?
Keith at lunch?
Probably.
I'm here.
Oh, hey.
Oh, great. Hi, Keith.
Hey,
Great. So I was thinking now it's about the 1 hour point. And think it was probably a good time to switch over and have you talk for a little bit. Give Jimmy a break.
Sure.
I'd rather listen to Jimmy, actually.
Ah. I'd rather listen to you. I want to see the shop. You know, I've not been to the new shop.
Well, it's a dusty mess, but
It's
we always, with lots of sawdust, we say if you go to a guitar shop and there's no sawdust or dust, they're not actually making guitars. So we do.
well, it's a beautiful place, and you make really beautiful instruments there. So
Ron's
Thank-
been
Yeah, I got a couple in the background right now.
yeah, and I showed him this guy. So this is it. This is the
I've-
one.
I've
You get.
I've been watching. I had a lot of those stories. That was fun for me.
Yeah, that was a great day for me to meet you.
So what I mainly got early in your conversation was the best plan was to have good parents.
If you got good parents, that's going to help a
Who's your
lot.
parents?
Yeah, my parents were incredible.
My-
And they, you know, they had to kick my ass a few times, but as the way it goes, but it definitely gave me a good foundation of how to be a good person. So I'll always honor them in that sense, and respect everything they turned me on to. So they turned me on to a lot of culture, because, you know, my parents grew up in Puerto Rico.
Right.
So I learned a lot about, you know, the island cuisine, the music, the dance, even, you know, the Indian culture that was there. A lot of it's extinct now, but all that adds another element, you know, to a person's being, you know. So I have a lot to be thankful for.
Well, we hear it in your music and appreciate the music.
Thank you. Well, let's look at your shop. What do you got going for us?